Okay, so imagine the first test, everybody's fit. Australia line up, openers. Who do we reckon?
It's probably Khawaja and Head at this point, isn't it?
And India are going to be?
Rohit Yashasvi.
So you can choose who comes out of those. So Rohit, obviously. If it's going to be...
Well, it should be Khawaja, shouldn't it?
Yeah. But if you were to say Khawaja against Rohit or Khawaja against...
I think the thing with Jaiswal at the moment is we don't know...
No.
So he went to South Africa and didn't make many runs. Tough wickets, mind you. We all know how talented he is. No one's got any issue with how talented he is.
No one's criticising.
We're all Team Jaiswal here, right?
We love Jason.
Not only that, we want him to be successful because he's fun as hell.
Oh, he's brilliant.
But we don't know how that's going to go. I suppose if you were to look at that, Rohit played well and has played well in Australian conditions before, and I don't think he's going to have any issue with anything there. But you would expect Khawaja / Head / whoever it is to just be better. And most openers in Australia, foreign openers, just struggle just because of the extra bounce and everything, right?
So we give one each, one to Australia. So we have Khawaja and we have Rohit. Fair?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah?
Okay. Let's go with it. All right.
Yeah?
You don't like that?
Fair enough. Okay. Yeah. Go
You
on.
don't have to be... If you don't
No. I mean, this is fine. I mean, because Yashasvi, I take that point with Yashasvi.
Yeah.
I mean, he's.
It could be at the end of the series we look back and
Yeah,
go,
yeah.
what were we thinking?
Exactly. It's too early to kind of. I mean.
He's at the start,
fair
Khawaja's
enough.
at the
We
end.
just haven't seen it. And that's the only difference.
Yeah.
Well,
No. Fair enough.
I mean,
It is.
even Usman Khawaja's not sitting there going, I'm more talented than this kid,
No,
is he?
of course not.
But we know he can make runs in Australia.
Exactly.
Fair
So for
enough.
this
Fair
one.
enough. Yeah. Let's
Number
go.
3,
Marnus has been struggling,
he has
hasn't
been struggling for a while, hasn't he?
Shubman Gill. I think he'll bat at number 3. So yeah.
Did he make runs in Australia last? He made a 90.
He
in
made
the last test?
but he was opening back then.
Yes, he was.
He was opening, and that's the last test match which India won at Kaaba. I think his 90 or 80 or 90 was very, very crucial setting it up. So yeah, I mean, the thing is, he's very good square of the wicket.
Yeah.
Those pitches suit him very well. Number 3, he scored 100 last series. So yeah, I mean, he's also kind of getting into that role of more settled. One of the senior guys. He's still very young, but he's a little more established than some of the other batters who are coming into this side. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be an interesting one.
I'm going to hold fire on those two because at 4 you've got Smith. I'm expecting Smith to bat 4. Kohli's going to bat 4. You can't choose between Smith. Well, actually, no, I'm going to ask you two. Smith or Kohli, if you had to choose.
I'd go with Virat.
I think the interesting thing is, right at the moment, they're both kind of in slumps.
Yeah.
And they're not quite at the best of their game. I think Smith's peak was just higher than Virat's, right? But that doesn't mean that Smith's better now. I mean, the fact that he ended up as an opener and didn't make a lot of runs, you'd have to say that, I think, having watched them both bat recently, Virat looks like he's moving better than Smith is. So I'd probably be going with him. And also, I think Virat enjoys the ball coming on as fast as possible. So he makes a lot of... I was in Adelaide when he made those 200s. I haven't seen a foreign play come
Let
and
me
do
also
that.
add this other side with Joe Root scoring the number of runs that he is, and so is Kane Williamson.
They're both going to try and catch up.
You know, and I tell you what, I mean, these guys, I mean, I'm sure in public, to the media, they'd say, no, I mean, very good and all that. I'm sure back, I mean, they're thinking about it. I mean,
Smith definitely is thinking
I mean, that's how they get themselves going as well for big games, big series. This could well be Virat's last series to Australia, a place where he's done really well for himself as a batter, you know. So, I mean, there could be Smith's last series against India. So, so you don't know with these great guys, you don't know what takes them on. You know, and once they're on, and the reason why they're great is because they can get into that zone and can stay there for longer than some of the better batters. That's the reason they are great. So if they can find that switch and get into that zone, you never know, both these guys are greatsmen.
If you're looking at 3 and 4 as a combination, you pick India at the moment because of Manus's form.
Yeah.
So even if you're leaning towards Smith, we haven't seen him bat at 4 in a while.
Shubman Gill was wavering 2 tests into that England series. There was talk about him.
Yeah, but Shubman Gill's incredible.
I mean,
doesn't he average like 70 in ODI cricket or something?
This is a test match.
Oh, okay.
But he did get I mean, what you're saying is right, because again, there's a new position for him at number 3, and also in India, what happens is you get labelled as well. So he's labelled as the next big thing after Virat.
Well,
so that's not an easy pressure to handle.
Very rarely works out, does it?
Yeah. but
He did
he's
seem
handling it
very
all right.
nervy at the start of his
Oh, yeah.
innings.
I think he's a nervy starter, though, to be
He
fair.
is very nervy.
Yeah.
He is, and
Which
it's a
isn't
different
really what you
thing.
want at number 3.
And he's been a very, very reluctant number 3, number 4, because there was this big debate, is he a better opener in Test match cricket or middle order, looking at his technique and everything else, don't you think he's a better middle order? But everywhere, even in first class cricket, every time he's been asked to bat down the order, he said, no, I'm going to open. So he's very reluctant middle order number 3 batter. So for him, I think that was also a mental adjustment to kind of sit there with your pads on and wait for your opportunity. And that, again, has its own dimension. So I think he's, again, growing into that role of, number 3. And also the role of the next guy who's coming in, next big guy.
Jaiswal making runs might have helped that as well, because some of the pressure.
That's right. Yeah.
The 2 wild cards, possibly, I guess Rishabh Pant, if he plays, will come in at 6 rather than 5, if he plays. But Travis Head at 5. KL Rahul, he's been named
Rahul
in the
5,
squad
6.
for Bangladesh,
Yes,
coming
yes.
in ahead of Sarfraz.
Yes, and KL Rahul, I mean, he's been to Australia at least twice before, if I'm not wrong, and he's got runs as well. I think WC 2014-15, he got 100, Sydney, if I'm not wrong.
Certainly made 100 in Australia.
Yeah. So,
But there's no real... I mean, if he is a 5...
Yes, so I mean, I guess they'll be a little more flexible, because this new thing of trying to get a left-hander in there, so you might see it, depending how long is Yashasvi's innings, you might see someone like Rishabh coming in and stuff like that. But let's say KL Rahul, and 5 Travis Head. If Travis Head is 5, I guess at this point in time, I'm going to put Travis Head ahead.
There's no competition really between those two, is there?
I mean, Head and Mitch Marsh are probably the best 5-6 combination in world cricket at the moment, aren't they?
So Marsh is at 6
I would assume.
and Rishabh at 6.
Yeah.
Oof. I mean, a wicket-keeper batter and an all-rounder. If he's bowling, of course, because he's still not bowling at the moment.
Yeah, I mean...
And is he going to bowl?
Yeah, I mean...
It's only a few months away.
Yeah.
And if he does bowl, he's not going to bowl much.
Well, I mean, the thing with his bowling is that they don't need it that much. And so he does bowl occasionally, right?
Yeah.
Like he comes on. Didn't he play a game against Scotland where he didn't bat or bowl the other day? He dropped himself down to like number 9. So maybe he's now he's a professional captain.
If Zach Crawley plays for India, I think Mitchell Marsh should start bowling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He does like him, doesn't he?
He does like him.
But yeah, no, I think they might need 3 spells of Mitchell Marsh in this series. But they could be important little spells of, bowling the old Shane Watson, Paul Collingwood style stuff of getting through 6 overs with the old ball without getting whacked around or anything like that. Or I was also with Mitch Marsh, you can bowl bouncers.
But with, the thing with Mitch Marsh and him bowling is also connected with Hazelwood, Stark, and obviously Pat Cummins.
Yeah.
So how you want to use Hazelwood, Stark, and Mitch Marsh? Smaller spells. And if it's a longer innings, let's say an 80-90 over innings, then you might need your 4th seamer to put in a shift as well, just to give them rest, if nothing else.
But the difference is that we talked about Head and Marsh being 5-6 because that's where they've been batting. It's probably going to be Green Marsh at 5-6 because Head will probably open. We're just guessing because
fair enough.
Because the last rumor that came out, I think Crash Craddock did an interview in Australia where he said he had heard that Travis Head was potentially going to open. So if that's the case, Mitch Marsh won't be needed to bowl. Green's just a better bowler than him.
So it could be Green. So what about Green against Rahul? You'd probably go with Green if we're saying your Head is opening. Mitchell Marsh at 6 against Pant.
It's just a form thing, isn't it?
And it's 2 completely different. It's very difficult.
When Rishabh Pant was at his best, you'd have him over Mitch Marsh, but right at the moment, Mitch Marsh is just in better form.
Yeah, we also
should we just compare the keepers then? Because would it be who came in? Has Carey been? I lose track of who's a keeper for Australia these days.
We have a lot of different keepers in a lot of different formats.
Who is going to be the Test keeper? Is it Carey? Yes, it is Carey because he scored those runs against New Zealand.
He scored runs just when he was about to be dropped.
Yeah, he was about to be dropped, but Carey. So Carey and Pant.
See, I mean, again, we are doing this before India plays Bangladesh. So, and obviously Rishabh hasn't played any red ball cricket. He did play the domestic Dulip Trophy there. He got not massive runs, but he did get some runs. So obviously he's playing Test match cricket after 2 years plus, if I'm not wrong. So I think, so as of now, obviously you're still going to back somebody who's been playing cricket, got some runs off late. So but we all know Rishabh Pant. I mean, he's a game changer.
He was phenomenal against Australia 4 years ago, wasn't he?
Yeah, and the thing is his mindset is so different. So there is no draw, it's all in. Either you win or you lose. I mean, there's not an iota of defensiveness in his body. So it's all about just going out there, being aggressive, even if he gets out. So I mean, there's been a lot of over the years criticism the way he's got out, bad shots, blah blah blah, and all of that. But that hasn't affected him, and thank God it hasn't affected him. I mean, because you don't want him to lose that edge, and that's what he's really good at, is just being aggressive. And if it comes off, and that's the reason he has this potential of being one of the greatest test match winners that at least India has seen or produced, provided he has that potential because of that aggressiveness.
I was at Trent Bridge, I think it was his debut, and I was popped out for some reason. I was just with the crowd, and he just came down the track and just popped a ball into the crowd. I think it was his first scoring shot in Test cricket. It was a 6, and you could just hear. This is pre-Bazball, right? So it wasn't really normal. Nev was like, "What? Who's this guy?" And now we know. So we're going to go for Pant over Carey.
Yeah.
A couple of tests under the bag, and we just know.
I mean, even if Australia went with Inglis, who's obviously in pretty good form against Scotland recently, there's still, you take Rishabh Pant over any option that Australia have. It's a bit of a weakness that Australia have had over the last couple of years. They've had multiple options, but no one's really starred. And, no matter what format, they really haven't got as much out of their keeping position as what they would have wanted.
Spinners, you imagine India will go in with one, Jadeja?
I mean, probably.
You think, right?
Yeah,
so
probably.
Jadeja against Lyon. Who'd you choose?
Nathan Lyon.
Well, Nathan Lyon for the first 2 innings is going to be a hell of a lot better than Jadeja, isn't he?
Yeah.
And the other problem with Jadeja is you've got Head, Khawaja. You don't have quite that. It's not quite the old days of Warner being in there as well.
Yeah,
but there's a couple of left-handers that's going to be an issue for Jadeja when the wicket isn't wearing. But by the end of the game, Jadeja will be back in it again. Once there's foot marks and everything else, he won't have any issues.
He would, but again, the quality of Nathan Lyon and what he can do, let's accept, it'll be good batting surfaces.
Yeah.
And the kind of ability that Nathan Lyon has, it's unbelievable.
And he's made for those wickets.
Yes, I mean that.
And Jadeja isn't.
Turn. Exactly. So even though Jadeja's got the experience of having played in Australia over the years, and again for someone like him, this might be his last tour to Australia. You would expect, and obviously third, fourth innings, day 3, day 4, day 5, foot marks, he could be quite dangerous. But overall, I'm going to say Nathan Lyon, but as just the bowler. But I think Jadeja, the reason why he's there in that Indian playing 11 is the fact that he brings in that batting aspect of him. So it's not just about Jadeja, the bowler, that's important for India. Jadeja, the batter, is also quite equally important.
Yeah.
It also shows a difference with the setup of both sides.
Yes.
They're trying to win a game of cricket in different ways. Yeah. Okay, 3 fast bowlers. On the Australian side, you've got Cummins, Stark and Hazelwood. Up against
Bumrah,
Shami, Siraj.
But both of them have a weakness at their third spot, and it's not that Stark is as washed, as I said before.
No.
He might still be really good, but he hasn't been good in Test cricket for a long period of time now.
Yeah.
And it was after they technically changed him. And Siraj is still the same bowler that Siraj has been for a long time. Siraj doesn't know what it is that makes him work. Right? Do you know what I mean? Like, you watch Shamar Joseph.
A bit like you.
Yeah, a bit like me. You watch Shamar Joseph as well. Like, he's like a young version of Siraj. And like, Shamar Joseph could bowl one spell when no one in the world could ever hit a ball.
Yeah.
And then the next 10 spells, he might never be able to bowl like that. And Siraj is at a higher level. But you watch him sometimes, and he just coughs. Like, when he was bowling, I know this is T20 World Cup, but you were watching him in the USA on those dodgy pitches, and it's like he couldn't work out that all he had to do was hit the pitch hard, back of a length, and that's all he had to do, and no one was ever going to hit him off the square. And it's that sort of stuff with Siraj. His best ball is as good as anyone's, I think, in world cricket.
Yeah,
but,
fair enough.
But he's not always there, and so him and Stark are Shami's going to be great, and Bumrah's going to be great. Hazelwood is so consistent, and Cummins is probably, still at the level he was at. Those guys cancel each other out. The difference is, can Siraj or Stark be or Boland or Arshdeep? I don't know, whoever else is.
So that's the big question.
Who's the other third seamer?
So Prasidh Krishna's coming back again. He was supposed to play the Dulip Trophy. Last moment said he wasn't fit enough. Again, he's gone back. So Arshdeep, Yash Dayal, the other left-arm seamer.
Yeah.
Yash Dayal's been picked for the Bangladesh series, so that's quite interesting. Because next 5 test matches are going to be very, very important before the Australia series, looking at those few areas, the third seamer, questions like that. But But let me also put another one, or maybe after this, we're going, is the big question mark and the big thing about Indian bowling is Bumrah, all 5 test matches, Shami, all 5 test matches. I think that is the big concern. And how, I mean, again, we don't know Shami, he's coming back. He's worked a lot on his fitness last few years, but he's not a naturally fit guy, you know, he's not a naturally guy who's bent towards fitness, as in you know, going out there and doing his stuff and all of that, can be lazy at times. So yeah,
those other bowlers you talked about as well. So Prashant Krishna, so we saw him play against India against England in the one days. Yeah. He's what? He's not that tall actually. He's about 6'3", 6'4", but he seems to have like 9-foot wingspan. Like the ball comes from so high. He's going to get smashed in Australia because he's not accurate enough at the moment, right? It's not his skill. Maybe that in 2 years' time he might be perfect for Australian conditions. Arshdeep, again, when Arshdeep's on fire, he's a bit like Siraj. When he's not on fire, he just gets hit for a lot of boundaries. So there's a few different.
True. The other thing that India might be looking at is somebody who can bowl fast.
Mayank Yadav.
Yeah. Right.
How many first-class games has?
I think he's only played 3-4 because he's been predominantly injured. Yeah. But I know for a fact that they're working really hard because India has now, BC's created a pool of fast bowlers, contracted 5 of them. He's one of them. He's a late entry into that. So obviously they might be looking at a bowler who is out and out fast, you know, especially going to Australia on those surfaces. So Mayank Yadav, Umran Malik or someone like that who can just come in and bowl at 145 plus regularly. So that could be an option as well.
There was a rumour that Mayank Yadav was injured again recently, wasn't there?
Yes.
And that's why we hadn't seen it. I think Mayank Yadav, we've seen about, 40, 60 balls of him at the top level. He looks incredible. Yeah. It's a big ask for him to get there without a lot of cricket beforehand. Umran Malik, to me, looks like, again, fast, no issues. He's just not. The thing with Australia is this whole idea that you need fast bowlers for Australia. Most Australian fast bowlers are pretty accurate. Right? There aren't that many Sean Tates. There's a lot more Brett Lee, Pat Cummins than there is Sean Tate. And it's because you whack it into the surface and it's like, but it also sits up for someone to take the pace off you. So I think Umran Malik would be a risk. Mayank Yadav would be incredible though. I mean, he'd probably only last a test, but what a test that would be.
Okay, so you can choose 3 of Cummins, Hazelwood, Bumrah and Shami. And you're not allowed to throw in the injury concerns around Shami. Which 3 do you take of those?
Okay, I'm going to go with Hazelwood, Bumrah, Shami.
Oh, that was not what I was expecting.
I'd go Cummins over
Shami.
Over Shami, yeah.
Well, you two have got to argue it out.
The thing with the 2 of them is that I think once the ball is older, Pat Cummins just gives you bounces and he gives you defensive bowling and he doesn't give anything away. He's always I don't know if you saw the footage of that. They showed all the deliveries he bowled to India in that previous series and he wasn't cut once. Yeah. It was like one ball and Shami gives you balls. Shami's best ball is probably better than Cummins' best ball, but I don't know if his consistency is all the way through. Also, you get a little bit of batting with Cummins. Right? You don't get any batting with
okay. I completely agree on both those 2 points. I think Packham is more consistent, right? You give him the ball and he's consistent over the spells. If you give him 3 spells, all 3 spells, you know what you're going to get. With Shami, that's the thing, you don't know.
Yeah.
But if I'm looking at a match winner, Shami might not be very consistent. That's where I think Rohit and Virat, both of them, were very good in handling him. They would see him in the first 2-3 overs. Doesn't look like he's in rhythm, comes off. Then he comes back again. And so he's bowled 4-5 spells depending, how he's feeling. So that's the thing. And if you, with the old ball you mentioned, well, I do agree the other 2 things in terms of consistency and batting definitely. But one, he's a match winner. Secondly, the older ball issue. If you look at his numbers, his second innings numbers, second innings numbers are much better than his first innings. And, there was he's still called the second inning Shami because he gets more wickets, even in India, unused and kind of day 3, day 4 surfaces.
Over there, I would take him, but I think the old ball bowling specifically for Australia, I just think it's very hard to be short and be a bowler in Australia with that second and third. Do you know what I mean? Without the ability to
So this is okay. So let me put it in this way. So you've got the third bowler. If you're looking somebody who would do a consistent, maybe at times defensive job,
Yeah.
right? Not necessarily aggressive all the time. Not the wicket taker. So you've got someone like, okay, let's say Bumrah or Hazelwood bowling from one end, and you want just a 5-over spell from them, and then from the other end you want somebody to kind of be really consistent, not give away runs, and hold one end.
Yep.
I would go over Pat Cummins. I mean, I'd go with Pat Cummins over Shami. But if I want wicket-taking spells and I want, 5 overs and I want a wicket, I'd go with Shami over Pat Cummins.
The interesting thing about Shami is because Usman Khawaja hasn't made many runs this year, we don't know who the second opener is going to be. We're assuming it's definitely going to be a middle order guy who doesn't want to open.
Yeah.
That's what we know for sure at the moment.
Either be
right?
Green, Head, or
Smith, right? If someone who doesn't want to do it, Mitch Marsh is going to walk out in the first test, right?
And Bancroft's like, hello guys, I'm just going to score another triple century over here.
And so, if that's the case, the more important bowler from India's point of view at the moment is probably their new ball bowler, right? So Shami could be even more important than Bumrah in some ways in his ability to take wickets very early on with a very new ball, and also because he can group those wickets together. So he could be the more important of the two. But I still think in Australian conditions, Cummins is going to be more useful longer. The interesting thing there is who's the better fourth seamer?
Wow.
Is it Green? Is it Hardik?
Well, this brings us on to that final piece of the puzzle: Green or Hardik.
God, I don't know whether Hardik's going to play or not. Then let's say Hardik slash
Shardul.
Shardul.
Yeah.
Who's the young kid that plays for Sunrisers as well?
Nitish Reddy.
Yeah, he's probably not.
He's not ready for.
Yeah.
I don't think he's
Pardon
ready
the
as
pun.
yet.
Yeah.
But no.
Reddy's
good,
not ready.
good name. He's
And Green is Green.
fair
Yeah,
enough.
things.
But you know what? Again, just a left field thought. Kuldeep Yadav.
Ooh,
Not just 3 seamers.
I love Kohli Yadav.
And Kuldeep Yadav, depending how much confidence does that team have, the top 7 batters,
Yeah.
and whatever they can get from the last 4. Because Kuldeep Yadav on Australian pitches, maybe not all 5 test matches, depends on the surface and everything else. I think it's a good option as far as I'm concerned.
His
As a
batting
fourth
has improved as well.
Yes.
He's not
As
good.
himself.
He's not like an all-rounder or anything, but he can hold a
Yes.
bat.
Yeah.
And there's a few guys in that tail who can't, right? They're not going to give as much. So I don't mind that. I think if you have 5 bowling options in your team, you should try and make them 2 spin and 3 seam.
Yeah.
And I think that people get a bit obsessed with Australian conditions and English conditions and New Zealand conditions, where you're still like, Ashwin is going to be, Ashwin or Kuldeep, in either of those guys, are really going to be handy. If your best 3 seamers aren't good enough in Australia, I don't think that Shardul or Hardik is going to make a massive difference to your team.
Yeah.
So I'd be thinking about it that way. But there is also the fact that Shami's always injured. Bumrah is not quite as bad, but quite often injured. That 4-seamer might just be the guy who bowls the 8-over spell in the middle.
So the other important thing, as a captain, I'm thinking is you look at 3 wicket-taking bowlers. That's a setup of the bowling unit, and you want those 3 and how you want to use them. Then you have the other bowling options. The spinner, especially in the first innings, when you're playing away from the subcontinent, would be that holding bowler, and you want another maybe holding bowler. They pick wickets, brilliant. But then if that's how you're going to use it, you're 3 out and out wicket taking. You don't care whether they bat, whether they make any runs or not. You just want those 20 wickets from those 3, predominantly those 3. If that's your mindset, you can even look at, I'm just saying from an Indian perspective, you can just look at Bumrah, Shami, Kuldeep being those 3 bowlers. And then you look at the other ones like, Jadeja, Ashwin can give you something with a batter spell. He's got 4 test hundreds. Shardul. So then you decide on those lines. 3, I'm not going to touch my wicket takers. These 3 bowlers, I'm not going to touch them. Look at the other ones then. So I guess there are those questions as far as the combination is concerned with India.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.